What is my rallying cry? Currently, a problem that I have in my classroom is a lack of individual instruction time. So, in order to fix this, my goal would be to create a space for individual or small group instruction time so I can meet the needs of all students by implementing a station rotation model in 4th grade in the upcoming school year. The way that my classroom is currently set up, I do not have any time for individual or group instruction. If I want to do this, I usually have to put on a movie for the rest of the class or a similar activity. I also have the challenge of only seeing students for 30 minutes at a time. In order to reach this goal, I might have to collaborate with the PE teacher and see if we can alter our schedule to allow me to see a class for an hour at a time. I'm not sure if this will work yet, but it's worth a try. Due to the shorter class time and the way that I've always taught music, the most interaction I have with an individual student is a quick question at the side of the room while the rest of the class finishes a song or whatever activity we were working on. This does not give me much time to help students who are struggling in class or those who already know the content and are ready to move on. This picture is not a rotation model, but this is students working in small groups. So another thing that I have to think about when setting up the station rotation model is how will students be able to work at different stations. As you can see in my classroom, there are no desks and there are no chairs. So students will be sitting on the floor, so I will need to think if they are writing something down, they will need a hard surface to write on. If they're using their computers, they will probably have to be sitting on the floor doing that. Just another thing to consider while setting up a station rotation model. In order to achieve this goal, I would need a functional team. The main person this will affect is myself. I will be completely changing the order of my classroom and how everything operates. If I want to try to alter my schedule and extend my class period from half an hour to an hour, I would need to add the PE teacher to my team so we can figure out the schedule since it would affect him. The only other people who might need to be included are the grade level teachers so they know where to take their class on what day and what time. I don't think that this would mean they would need to be on the team. They would just need to be made aware of what was happening. I think in a music room, the station rotation model could get very noisy, so I'll have to keep that in mind while planning activities. This video is an example from last year. Students were working on composing a song on their recorders working in a small group. So they were all doing the same activity, but you can hear in this video how noisy it can get with just one thing going on. There's talking happening, there's playing of recorders. So as you can see, it can get a little bit noisy. And if you add in other instruments or other activities that are not using headphones or anything like that, it's just going to get even louder. So one thing to consider. There are several games online that enforce music topics that 4th graders need to know. I could have students working on their Chromebooks on a certain website for one of their rotations. One website that I've found that I really like is this Classics for Kids. This game, students need to know note names. So here, what I like about this is it gives you immediate feedback. When I get the answer correct, it shows up that it's correct. But if I get the answer wrong, you can hear the sound that it's making. It's telling me that that is not the correct answer. So then I finally get there. Students get instant gratification of what they are doing and if their answer is correct. When students exit out of this, if they had other questions or they're still struggling with something, the bottom, when you scroll down, has more information about the treble clef. So in 4th grade, we only use the treble clef, not the bass clef, but they could look over here, and this is our poem that we talk about, Every Good Boy Does Fine, and F-A-C-E, face, spells face in the spaces. So they could look at those things to give them a reminder if they were still struggling. Another game that I found on here is Match the Rhythm. So this game, students have to listen to a rhythm and then play it back. So now it would be my turn to play it back. Same thing here. If I get a rhythm wrong, it tells me right away that it's wrong. So let's listen. So you can see, I know right away that I've done it wrong. And I don't get to go on. I have to try it again. So that is another thing where students are getting that instant feedback of what they were playing. And again, here there's some information about rhythms. Another activity that students could do on this website is instruments of the orchestra. So we talk about the orchestra in 4th grade and all grades, but we could click on a section. If I click on the woodwinds here, you get to hear the woodwinds. So that would give you an idea of what these instruments sound like. It gives you a little excerpt of what you're looking at in these instruments, and then I could go on to all of the other instruments. So great things that students could be looking at for one of the activities. Another activity students could be working on the computer is composing their own song. This could be done alone or in a group. So this one, I think it's pretty easy to work with. You can see I've already started this one on recorder. Students can come up here. If I select here, if they wanted 1/8 notes, they come over here, select their 1/8 notes. Maybe I want a 1/2 note. And then a rest. Or not. Then, if students go back to the beginning, they can listen to what this sounds like. So if they were having to play this on an instrument, it would give them an idea of what they should be listening for and what their composition sounds like. So students could listen to that and then try to play it on their recorder themselves. Another group could be at a classroom instrument playing rhythms that are provided. In this activity, they would need to work with a partner. One student will be playing the rhythm, the other student will be watching and listening to see if they are playing it correctly. With other activities happening in the room, I would be available to work with students one-on-one or in a small group. This would allow me to meet students where they are on a certain topic and help them achieve success. I would also be able to work with students who are excelling in whatever unit we are on and help them to extend this to further their education and keep learning. A lot of teachers already have a rotation type system set up in their classrooms, or at least they have a time in their schedule where they can meet individually or in a small group with students. To include this in my classroom, it will be a bit of a disruptive change from what students are used to in music, but essentially it is a sustaining innovation. I can think of a few examples from this school year when this would have been an effective tool to help students meet their needs. I had a 4th grade student who had some fine motor issues and could not type on a keyboard very well. When we got to recorders, she also struggled playing recorders because she could not get her fingers to cover the holes properly, causing her to get a squeaking sound when she tried to play. Our school occupational therapist had been helping her with typing and started working on playing the recorder with her as well. Due to my time constraints and trying to teach 24 other students how to play their recorders, I was not able to give this student the attention that she needed to succeed. Luckily, we had our occupational therapist that was able to help her, so she was able to play a song by the end of the year, but I was not able to give her the time that she needed. I don't think that a station rotation model would have solved this problem completely, but it could have helped. Another example I think of is with a 2nd grader who was always acting out in music. One day I asked him why he did this in music, and he said because he was bored. He already knew all the information we were talking about, so he says, and didn't like having to do the same type of activities more than once. I do not have this problem a ton, but there are students who need more of a challenge than the rest of the class. I was not able to do much for him this year, he didn't tell me until close to the end of the school year, other than form some higher level questions for lessons and try to quickly give an extension if it was possible during a lesson. If I had the opportunity to meet with him one-on-one more, I could have given him more activities to challenge himself so he would not get bored during lessons. Again, I don't know that this would solve the problem completely, but I think a station rotation model could have helped. These are just two examples that I can think of that happened this school year. I'm sure there are several others that I was not aware of. This may not seem like the most important issue to others, but to me this is very important. I think the station rotation model would also help my classroom environment and allow students to work together in music while creating their own music and evaluating others.